Welcome to CMS Quarter 1 Family Video for 3rd grade mathematics. My name is Sonia Gregory and I am an elementary math curriculum specialist for Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools. This video is designed to answer these 3 big questions. What is my child learning in Quarter 1? How is my child learning the Quarter 1 content? And what can I do to help my child at home? During Quarter 1, 3rd grade students will complete Unit 1, Introduction to Multiplication, and Unit 2, Area and Multiplication. The first unit, Introduction to Multiplication, allows students to interpret and represent data on scaled pictographs and scaled bar graphs, building on his or her work with graphs in 2nd grade. The first 8 lessons in Unit 1 allow students to make sense of and draw pictographs and bar graphs. They see that each picture in a pictograph or each step on a bar graph can represent more than one object. They discover this using pictures and bars with scales of 2, 5, and 10, where each picture or step represents 2 objects, 5 objects, or 10 objects. So why start with the numbers 2, 5, and 10? These numbers are familiar skip counting numbers from 2nd grade, and students also grouped objects by these numbers. Students use scaled pictographs and scaled bar graphs in Unit 1 to also answer questions that are how many more questions as well as how many fewer questions. Lessons 9 through 15 take students on another adventure. They use their learning from the first 8 lessons about scaled graphs to build an understanding of the concept of multiplication. In this situation here, students recall that each picture in a pictograph represents 2 signs. Students can use skip counting to help them figure out the total number of signs in each category. Once 3rd graders have the idea that each picture represents more than one object, they apply their understanding to thinking about equal groups. Students create equal group drawings and take diagrams to represent the situations involving equal size groups based on the pictures in a scaled pictograph. Students learn that we can write 3 times 2 to represent these drawings and interpret the expression to mean 3 groups of 2 or 3 times 2. Later, students write equations to represent multiplication situations. They also find unknown factors and products in equations. Students move on from pictographs to creating equal group drawings and take diagrams for situations involving scaled bar graphs. Again, students can represent these situations with an expression. Lessons 16 through 20 shift students from equal group drawings to a new type of multiplication representation called rectangular arrays. A rectangular array is a set of objects organized in equal rows and equal columns, which form a rectangle. Students organize equal groups of objects into rectangular arrays to make it easier to count them and later multiply. Students make equal group drawings in rectangular arrays and make connections between them. 3rd graders are expected to explain how the equal groups of objects are the same as the equal rows in an array. They must also explain that each row has the same number of objects as each equal group in a drawing. Students begin this array work with objects organized into 2 rows or 2 columns, 5 rows or 5 columns, and 10 rows or 10 columns, applying these familiar skip counting numbers from 2nd grade and their work with arrays in 2nd grade. Students look for equal size groups and arrays that come in the form of equal rows and equal columns. They write multiplication expressions once again to represent the number of equal rows or equal columns and how many are in each one. For example, in the array shown here, we can write 2 times 5, for 2 rows of 5 dots, and we can write 5 times 2 for 5 columns of 2 dots. Students wrap up Unit 1 by discovering another big idea. This big idea is called the commutative property. Students can build or draw arrays to show they understand this property. For example, let's take a look at the array on the left. There are 5 columns of 2 dots in this long rectangular array. When you turn the array counterclockwise to the left, it makes a tall rectangular array showing 5 rows of 2 dots. Both arrays show 5 groups of 2, or 5 times 2. Now, third graders don't need to know the name of this property of multiplication. However, they do need to understand the big idea for this property, and that is, no matter how you turn the array, the total number of objects or dots in the array will not change. Here are some important vocabulary words your student will be using during Unit 1. They will come to understand these words during instruction and during practice. A fun way to have fun with multiplication at home is to search for things in the environment that comes in groups of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. These things could be in the kitchen, in the bedroom. They could be outside, at the grocery store. The fun thing is, so many things are already organized in groups. As adults, we can generate lists of different group sizes because we have more lived experiences than our children. However, our children bring a lot of background knowledge and experiences from their environment to the classroom. Students begin seeing groups long before third grade. As you are looking for groups with your child, finding groups of 7 and 9 may be a little tricky because things don't naturally come in those group sizes. However, if your child plays sports or is involved in group activities that involve 7 people or 9 people, this gives them an opportunity to find a group of 7 and a group of 9 in their environment. As your child finds equal groups and arrays in their environment, consider asking these questions. How many groups are there? How many are in each group? Can you represent the objects with a drawing, a tape diagram, or an expression? How does your drawing and tape diagram match the expression? Another way to support your child at home is through books. That's right, books about mathematics. It is a great way to incorporate reading into math and bring math to life. So head to the public library or your local bookstore. Check out a book or buy a book on multiplication. Just know there are many books out there that can be fun while learning multiplication at the same time. In Unit 2, students learn about the concept of area by finding the area of rectangles and squares. So how do they do that? Well, third graders begin Unit 2 by making sense of the empty space inside of flat shapes, particularly rectangles. This space is called area. They learn that some rectangles have the same size area, and some have a greater area because they have more space. We can find the area of a rectangle by tiling or organizing square tiles inside the space into equal rows and equal columns, then counting the number of tiles to find the area measurement. While tiling rectangles, children must make sure there are no gaps and no overlaps. All of the space inside must be covered with squares, and the square tiles must fit or touch each other from side to side and from top to bottom. This rectangle has an area of 24 square units because 24 square tiles cover the space inside the rectangle. Students relate the area of rectangles to multiplication expressions. They learn strategies that help them find the area of rectangles, which are products of multiplication facts. One strategy is called partial products, or using the distributive property. When third graders use the distributive property, they break apart rectangles or decompose them into two smaller rectangles that have familiar or smaller factors they already know. Then they find the product of each small rectangle. Lastly, they combine the products of the two small rectangles together to find the total area or product of the large rectangle. Here are some important vocabulary words your students will learn during Unit 2. Be on the lookout through their homework and through conversations that you have with your child. Near the end of the unit, ask your child to find the area of this figure. Another way you can help out is by asking these questions as your child finds the area of the figure. You can ask, how many rows or how many columns are there in the rectangle? How can this figure be divided or decomposed into two smaller rectangles? And what multiplication expressions would you use to find the total area of the rectangle? Thank you, families, for joining us for the third grade quarter 1 family video. Also, thank you for partnering with us at home. We are confident that with your encouragement and support, our young mathematicians will gain a wealth of knowledge and develop a strong foundation in mathematics during the first quarter. For more math resources, you can visit the CMS website using this bit.ly link or QR code on the screen. Again, thank you.